Well, it's finally happening. A two-player mode is coming to Elden Ring Nightreign on July 30th, allowing you and one other friend to take on Limveld together, without having to queue up with a random player anymore. Or if you're so inclined, I guess you and a random player could team up to take on the world together. There's something romantic about that. Duos has been, aside from possibly crossplay, the single most requested feature for Elden Ring Nightreign really since the game was first revealed at the TGA's last December. And of course, as a result of that demand that has never really let up, FromSoftware announced a little while back that they were working on implementing a duos mode into the game, but honestly I wasn't expecting it this soon. For FromSoft's first ever multiplayer-focused effort, perhaps it wasn't surprising that they made seemingly a series of baffling omissions and mistakes pretty much right out of the gate, and a lack of a duos mode was absolutely at the top of the list. Although Nightreign was always pitched as a three-player experience first and foremost, it was confirmed, to allay some fears I think, that there would be a way to play the game solo too, to try and retain that core, original Elden Ring experience, with the game's difficulty even scaling down to compensate for the lack of players. And yet, despite that inclusion, despite the work that seemingly went into accommodating that, there was, bizarrely, no way to just play the game with two players. You could only play with either three players or just the one. There was no in between, which of course the community wasn't happy about. That, and the lack of crossplay, definitely didn't help the game's reputation prior to launch, and the fact that it seemed like From was approaching Nightreign in the traditionally haphazard way they tend to handle their multiplayer offerings. Except this time it wasn't just an addendum to their already extremely popular single-player outing, it was a game built entirely around multiplayer, which was concerning to say the least. What was even weirder was the fact that if you were playing three-player, if you were running a three-player expedition and someone quit, someone left in the middle of it, their spot wouldn't be filled. So you'd be playing a two-player expedition anyway, and the game even scaled to accommodate that. So, in a sense, it feels like the option's always been there, in a weird and roundabout way, in a way that it was clearly never intended to be played as such. For the game to now have a dedicated Duos expedition option is absolutely fantastic. In fact, Duos is such a big deal that From even put together a trailer celebrating the inclusion. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the trailer doesn't show us too much in the way of details, but I do like how it was put together. The shot of the Executor approaching the Everjail only to not have a key was really good. That felt like a kind of meta commentary on the community, on how people have been so angry at the idea of people pinging Everjails only to not have a key, you can't even access it, wasting loads of time. That was funny to see that represented here in the trailer. Also, I love the Bandai Namco YouTube channel calling out Nightreign players in the comments for how many friends they have. As someone who has predominantly played this game solo, I'm feeling a little attacked here, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm definitely left with a few questions. Like I said, there isn't much in the way of details here, which thankfully we won't have to wait too long to find out the answers to. But considering duos obviously slots right in the middle between trios and solo, I do wonder how they have balanced the game for this. Solo is obviously a dramatic departure from trios in terms of player count and therefore in terms of the amount of damage you can kind of output as a group. And so in the days following launch, From actually added some pretty big changes to the game to actually make solo easier, more winnable, such as an automatic revival upon your first death. Because obviously when playing with other people, the option, the ability to revive your teammates is built into the game. Whereas when playing solo, there is no such option, so From just gave you a free life, essentially, to kind of compensate for that. And of course, Wending Graces exist for purchase when playing solo too, designed again to help you cheat death, something that's actually possible multiple times if you manage to score enough of the Graces. I think when I've played solo, when I've managed to have a good run, and I've managed to get to the final boss, you get a guaranteed free life after each of the night bosses. So you are guaranteed a free life when you enter the Night Lord anyway. But I think I've managed to face the Night Lord with something like 3 additional lives, 4 additional lives maybe at max, which, is pretty good going. But those Wending Graces were really designed specifically to help make solo more, well, winnable, I guess. Will Wending Graces be a thing in duos? Perhaps you won't be able to acquire as many, or maybe the Wending Grace system will work exactly as it does in solo expeditions, but without the baked-in free revive. There's also the question of what adding another matchmaking playlist might do to queue times. Again, something that there has already been some consternation surrounding, as the matchmaking playlists are already quite broken up, especially when working on remembrances that fewer players have either reached or are even just bothering to attempt. But it's definitely interesting to see From operating like this, and Nightreign continues to feel like a live service light in a way. Probably more live service than From even intended. Exactly 2 months on from launch, which feels oddly fitting today, and the game is now receiving a sizable, much requested update, which is really cool to see, and time will only tell if crossplay is added in the future. Seeing the way From has been responding to community feedback and updating Nightreign, and honestly being, I would say, more agile than I was anticipating, also makes me wonder about the Duskbloods, and what that game will look like out of the gate, on launch. Will it be more feature complete than Nightreign was, which everyone pretty much accepts is very much an experimental project, at least in regards to the expected suite of multiplayer matchmaking features that a game should realistically be launching with, if it's a multiplayer-only title in, well, what will be 2026. But this latest update, as mentioned, will be introduced on July 30th, so less than a week from today, as part of patch 1.02, alongside several, in From's own words, quality of life UI updates, such as improved relic filtering options, because right now it is pretty limited, it's pretty bad, and they shared an image showing what that's going to look like, which should make people happy too. And of course, all of this comes straight off the back of the recent announcement that Elden Ring Nightreign has officially sold 5 million copies, along with Shadow of the Erdtree selling 10 million copies, both of which are enormous achievements, and a sign that the Elden Ring IP is just an absolute juggernaut. It is an unstoppable behemoth. It's gigantic. That From can churn out a spin-off like Nightreign, that ostensibly, aside from obviously being a part of the IP, generally speaking, in terms of how it plays, it doesn't really have anything to do with the main game, and yet it still manages to sell 5 million copies in 2 months, especially when, let's be honest, a lot of people were pretty down on the game just before it released, is incredible going. As with a lot of this recent news, the Duskbloods will prove to be the real test, I think, as that's a brand new IP and a brand new multiplayer IP at that. So obviously it'll have From's pedigree behind it, but it will do so without the heft of the Elden Ring name. I think Nightreign's improved and frankly continually improving reception will stand From in good stead for the Duskbloods, but we'll have to see. Either way, these sales milestones are huge, and perhaps the inclusion of duos will help Nightreign to continue to reach even more players to come. And then of course, Shadow of the Erdtree, managing to sell 10 million copies is also frighteningly impressive and shouldn't be overlooked. To be honest, I'm not sure which of these numbers is more impressive, as they both paint a fantastic picture of health for the Elden Ring brand. The Nightreign number is probably a bigger deal, since people were down on the game prior to release, and it is inherently weird and experimental. It doesn't feel like there was necessarily the guarantee of success that something like Shadow of the Erdtree would have launched with. But still, the expansion managing to secure roughly a third of Elden Ring's sales is a pretty amazing attach rate. And of course, Shadow of the Erdtree has only been out for, what, about a year now? And while it's almost certainly moved the vast majority of the units it's going to move, managing to hit that major milestone is truly something. The question is, where will Nightreign have landed within the next 12 months? Will it be able to match Shadow of the Erdtree's numbers? At that point, if it does, I can't help but feel like the Elden Ring brand really will be unstoppable. I mean, it already kind of feels like that. And let's not forget Alex Garland's upcoming Elden Ring movie, which will only help to continue to cement the IP's status as an increasingly mainstream mover. In fact, realistically speaking, Elden Ring is already mainstream, but the fact is that when these so-called transmedia projects come together, when they release, they normally bring with them a bump in interest for the source material, such as how sales of The Last of Us Part 2 shot up during Season 2 of the HBO show, regardless of how you felt about the quality of the product itself. That kind of synergy is exactly what these brands are looking for, what they are hoping to achieve with this kind of industry crossover. You know what, speaking of the Elden Ring movie, we've potentially got a bit of news where that's concerned as well. As reported by Eurogamer, though the casting scoop itself comes from industry insider Jeff Snyder, that's surprisingly difficult to say, it seems like Alex Garland is going to be reuniting with actress Callie Spaney, who starred in his 2024 movie Civil War, for a role in Elden Ring. And while of course we don't know which character she's going to be playing, there are a ton of very popular, very prolific female characters featured in the lore of Elden Ring itself, from Melina, who acts as the Tarnished's guide throughout the game, and is probably the female character that gets the most amount of face time, though that's kind of difficult to say, to be honest, since she only really sporadically appears at certain sites of grace. Though, as far as the plot, the overarching plot of Elden Ring is concerned, Melina is probably the most important, the most prominent. Although again, there are other characters as well. The nigh impossible boss, Malenia Blade of Miquella, probably the most famous female character in Elden Ring. The likes of Rani the Witch, extraordinarily popular and again, quite important to the overall story of the game, to perhaps the legendary, near mythical Marika herself. Or Spaney could be playing a completely original character too, that's not outside the realm of possibility. We've not actually discussed the Elden Ring movie yet on the channel, but my current stance is that I am cautiously excited. It was only officially announced back in May, but I think Alex Garland is a interesting and potentially inspired and cool choice to direct. Not only has he been on record talking about how much he loves Elden Ring, how much he's played it, but he also wrote one of my current favourite films of the year, 28 Years Later, so I'm definitely intrigued, though I should probably watch something he's actually directed too. And of course, let me know your thoughts on the upcoming Elden Ring movie. This is the first time we've ever actually really brought it up here on the channel. I'd love to know your thoughts on this scoop, this industry insider, letting us know who may or may not be actually involved in the movie. I don't think there's been any confirmed castings so far, but outside of Callie Spaney, there's also been the rumoured Kit Connor, who I think also featured in another of Alex Garland's movies, Warfare. So it seems like the cast may be coming together, but like I said, I don't think anything official has actually been announced just yet. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below as well regarding that. Alright everyone, that's it for today's video. Just a short news update. I felt it was worthwhile bringing to you that DUOS is coming to Elden Ring Nightreign after what feels like quite a long time, because really it has been ever since Nightreign was revealed back in December that people have been asking for DUOS to come as, you know, seemingly a no-brainer inclusion, so that it's here only 2 months after launch. I don't think that's too bad going, and we'll see again if it manages to either bring lapsed players back or bring new players into the fold. Either way, it seems like a pretty big inclusion to me. Let me know down in the comments how you're feeling about Elden Ring Nightreign these days. Are you excited that DUOS is coming to the game? Are you going to be playing the new DUOS mode with a friend, or maybe, like I said, you're going to be teaming up with a randomer to try and take on the world of Limveld together on your own? Either way, I'd love to get your thoughts down in the comments below. And of course, Elden Ring Nightreign selling 5 million copies, Shadow of the Erdtree managing 10 million copies, which is roughly a third of what Elden Ring itself has sold. Very good going, I would imagine. That seems like a pretty good attach rate for an expansion to me, but either way, I'd love all of your thoughts down in the comments below. How do you feel about these sales milestones? How do you feel about improved relic filtering, more options coming, more quality of life UI improvements coming? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below, so do please let me know. Alright everyone, as always, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Consider giving the video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, consider sharing it around, and consider hitting subscribe if you haven't done already to help push the channel towards our next major milestone of 15,000 subs. Your support would be greatly appreciated, and it really does mean the absolute world to me, so thank you all so very much. Okay everyone, until next time, I'll catch you later, and let's talk games again.